All right. Well, hello, everybody, and welcome back to Watts the Obsession True Crime. And tonight we're having a surprise. Let's call it Watts Wednesday. I've seen a lot of channels have done that before, so it's a surprise Watts Wednesday. And we are going to be talking about the namesake case of this channel, the Chris Watts case, or the tragic crime that ended the lives of Shanann Watts, who was 15 weeks pregnant with her unborn baby Nico. Bella Watts and Cece Watts were just little girls, ages 3 and 4, had just turned 3. Bella was going to be 5. The murders occurred in August. That next December 17th. Yeah, her would-be birthday is coming up. And my gosh, who was it? She would be 12, I think. I haven't done the math. I'm going to have to figure that out. But many of you know I have a soft spot for Bella. I really love Bella, and we will be celebrating her heavenly birthday. So welcome. Thank you to everybody who is here, subscribers, members, moderators, people who are just stopping by and checking us out. I'm so glad all of you guys are here. So hey, Nikki Hatfield, Keschik, MM Klar, Pepper, Jen, Honey Bun. I'm just going to say hi to a few people here. I'm not going to go through everybody because I know you guys have been waiting a little bit. And thank you so much. I appreciate all of you. Allison Wonderland, how are you doing, my friend? Great to see you. Utter, it's always a pleasure to see you. Sherry K. Let's see. Christina B, how are you doing? Mary Beth, hey, it's good to see you. I haven't seen you in a while. Sandra Voss, nice to see you as well. Shay, great to see you. Just Jada, how are you doing? Nice to see you. Sidewinder. Sidewinder says, did anyone notice how weird DA's profile looks? Hit me the other day and I can't stop looking. Like his side view profile of the district attorney, is that what you're talking about? He's an interesting looking man, isn't he? I think he's an interesting looking man. Sunkiss, welcome. How are you doing? Holly, welcome. How are you doing? And Margie Singer, welcome. How are you doing? Margie says, I love that name, by the way. It's my best friend's daughter's name, Margie. Marjorie is her name. We call her Margie. She's so super cute. The last few days, all I hear in my head from work, leave her alone. He knows BK is a liar like him. He knows BK. Is that NK or BK? I'm thinking Brian Koberger, Nicole Kessinger, not sure. But yeah, they're all a bunch of liars, right? So, yeah. So, I want to look into, I want to do a few live streams that are just, kind of taking a deep dive into the investigation. For people that watch this channel, many of you probably know that my opinion is that the investigation was lackluster, that there were a lot of mistakes made in the investigation, making it impossible for the public to rely on the determination that was made as a work product of the investigation and the prosecution, which barely even happened on its own. Of course, the prosecution team led by District Attorney Rourke, and we can talk a little more about that later. So I want to take a closer look at the investigation at the various steps along the way. And I guess we can say we can look at what went right. I mean, they got a right person, right? Like, it is definite in my mind that Chris Watts is where he belongs, and may he rot in cement. I hope life is not treating him well in prison. What he did to his family in a million ways is horrible. And, that is the opinion of this channel. Hey, Tracy, how are you doing? Says, I'm so glad that you and Zawoki are still keeping the case going and not letting people forget. Yeah, I think it's important. I wholeheartedly believe that complete justice has not been served in this case. That is an issue that is, central to my discussion of this case. But even if we were to set that aside, there are so many aspects of this case from a legal standpoint, but also from a behavioral human relationship standpoint. As many of you know, I'm a behavioral therapist, so I come from that angle for a number of things. I'm going to pause my screen for just a moment. I have a little cold and I got to grab a tissue. Just going to be honest here. I was just outside I'm in upstate New York. It's very cold out. My son might have a snow day tomorrow. We're getting some snow. I was just treating the driveway and sidewalks for that upcoming snow because it's like really slick. So, there's just, as it stands, aside from my testament as how I feel about this case, we all know that this is a case that people continue to discuss and follow and wonder about and have questions about still today, years later. Hi, Jessica Williams. How are you doing? Oh, hi again. Let's see. All right. So let's take a look at, one of the investigators, of course, is Tammy Lee. It was Tammy Lee and Grand Coder that questioned Chris Watts primarily in the Frederick Police Department. I was thinking about this, talking about Tammy Lee. I was doing some research on her for something else that I'm working on. I've been working on a documentary on this case for a really long time. I have put it together. It's way too long. It's almost 5 hours. I'm trying to get it down to about 2.5 hours. It's quite a process. So I always have that going on in the background. And I noticed that it looks like Tammy Lee recently maybe enjoyed a promotion. So I just kind of wanted to talk about her career and her background and the role that she played a little bit in the investigation into this case. I know snow days are great, aren't they? Absolutely. I love, love, love snow days. It's always snowing here. Oh yeah, Valerie, you're in Western New York. I heard on the radio the other day that parts of Western New York have had like 5 feet of snow, and you've had a lot of snow, haven't you? Yeah. Hey, Nancy, how are you doing, girl? I'm so excited for you. And Nancy says, everybody, there's one thing you have to know on this channel. It's don't fuck with Nancy. And she says, hello, everybody. Welcome to Watch the Obsession. She's my girl. So let's just take a look at Tammy Lee a little bit. So let's start out here. Let me bring this into the stream here. If for some reason the stream drops, just hold on. I'll be right back. And I do apologize in advance, but hopefully it won't. So this is just a little photo of our girl here, Tammy Lee. And in the middle, it says Spotlight. The CBI 7 polygraph examiners conducted 105 polygraph examinations in 2017. In this case happened in 2018. The breakdown of the tests were 66 employments for, the nature of employment polygraphs and the process of employing people. And 39 were in criminal cases. Colorado Bureau of Investigation investigative agent Tammy Lee, to the right, there's our girl, was named one of the CBI's outstanding employees of the year in 2017. Tammy was recognized for her outstanding leadership as a member of the Colorado Bureau of Investigations investigations section. Okay, let me just make sure that actually pulled in here. All right, it did. Now, I also was reading a little article as I was researching Tammy Lee for a different project and Reddit, just some people questioning. I have a love-hate relationship with Reddit. Sometimes I like it. Sometimes I'm like, what? But let me just, let's see. Let me see here. So let me make this bigger. Hold it. Just 1 second. And slide over just because, it gets late at night and I have a hard time seeing these things. All right. I don't even know if you could see that anyway, but I'll just read through it quickly. There are a lot of things that I appreciate about law enforcement in this case. I like how they took Nicole Atkinson's report of Shanann being missing seriously, even though she'd only been missing for a couple hours. I thought that was good too. And that's apparently what they're supposed to do. I like how they immediately went all hands on deck to investigate this case. And I do like how quickly, without undue coercion, they obtained a confession from Chris Watts. I include Tammy Lee in all this praise. I think she displayed a lot of amazing interview and investigative skills. She clearly is a good, competent agent, and I admire her. Again, this is the opinion of this person who posted on Reddit, and I'll find that name in a moment. However, I've been thinking more and more about the Reid technique implemented by Tammy Lee, very controversial in this case and across a number of other cases in law enforcement and, among the public. Implemented by Tammy Lee, as some have referred to it, particularly the chicks are crazy line, and maybe Shanann did something, or however she phrased it. Was that necessary? Did she need to give Chris this excuse? So it's part of the Reid technique to offer an alternative scenario that the suspect might find to be more favorable for them, because of course a lot of people aren't just going to want to admit that they've done something horrible, right? So that is a very, very brief of the Reid technique. It has several steps to it. And most importantly, was this line the impetus for all of the hate and bullying that the Rusiks have received over the years? This has been bothering me since someone replied to a comment I made about what a badass Tammy Lee was. The commenter pointed out that this case was solvable without that because they already had eyes on the survey site, which is true, and they were ready to find the bodies of the girls and Shanann. I don't know if this is true, but if it is, then I think it is sad that Shanann's name had to be dragged through the mud, even though I'm 100% sure that was not Tammy's intention. I don't think so at all. I know she felt very connected in a warm way to Shanann. Also, now that 5 years have passed, I'm not so sure that the quick resolution was such a good thing, given the unanswered questions about Nicole Kessinger, who this person does not think was involved in the murder at all, but obviously she took actions and had a spin on her story, both of which made her look suspicious, at the very least. So what do y'all think? I do believe at the end of the day, the right person received the right sentence. I believe one of the right people received the right sentence. That's part good. But was this achievable without planting that seed in Chris Watt's brain? That's an interesting question. I'd like to see what you guys think about that. I'll put a poll question up in a minute here. Would the slander against Shanann and the Rourke family have happened regardless of Tammy's interview? Was her technique necessary for securing a quick confession that led to the location of the bodies and put Chris away for life within a matter of weeks? Was all of this ultimately for the best, even if a handful or more of super shitty, awful, disgusting, monstrous, feel free to add the negative descriptions here, people want to accuse Shanann of taking the lives of the girls? I don't know anymore. Okay. So then there's, several responses to this person, and the poster is, the person's name is Norwegian Mysteries. All right. So let me just put up that poll really quick. I'm just asking you guys what you think about the use of the Reid technique. Oh, let's see. Hold on. I'm going to have to open up a new YouTube tab. So just give me 1 second on that. Well, here, since I have this pulled up right here, let's hear from Tammy Lee's own mouth. She's just going to talk, not having nothing to do with the Chris Watts case, but a little bit about her why, right? We all have our why for what we do in life. And this is Tammy Lee's expression of her why for what she does. Welcome to everybody who's coming in. Thanks so much for coming in. Please click the like. I'd really appreciate it. And please participate in the conversation. We really want to hear from you. We just ask that you're respectful to the victims, their family members, and of course to each other. Oh, not time for that yet. My why. All right.
My name is Tammy Lee, and I currently work in the Denver Major Crimes Unit. My why CBI basically goes back to CBI always being a dream for me to work at. I worked for a very small agency in northern Colorado, and we use CBI all the time to help us with investigations, to even just answering a question about a piece of evidence. I always use the CBI. I felt like they were kind of my savior, I guess, when I didn't have the resources or the expertise to handle something. So
sorry, the volume's all the way up on my volume and this video. It's just a little quieter.
I guess looking back, I always wanted to give back to that. And now I really appreciate the fact that I can be the calm for other people's storms. I like that they can call us and me specifically and say, I need help with this. And I love that we can show up and give them that assistance. So I just feel like it's a perfect fit for me, and it allows me to give back to all the people that helped me along the way. And it's just a dream come true, honestly.
It looks like a little bit of a younger Tammy Lee. It's always a little like awkward, right? When you have to, when people ask you to speak on something like that, and you're just like, yeah, what's my why? Okay, I'm gonna start trying to talk about some stuff that sounds halfway decent, right? So let me just pull something else here into the stream. Okay, so this is I just pulled this from, I think it was on Facebook from, let's see, June 28th of 2022. Tammy Lee and Graham Coder went on some kind of a tour talking to people in the law enforcement community. And the post here says, Tammy Lee and Agent Coder both worked on the Chris Watts case. They will be presenting the case study and explaining everything we need to know about the case itself. I would have freaking loved to have gone to that. To hear about the case in person, go to this link to register for the conference. And when you click on that link now, it's just like a dead link. So it says Nested Family Violence Prevention Conference, Tammy Lee and Agent Coder, American Murder, The Family Next Door, coinciding somewhat with the release of the Netflix video, right? Okay. Now, I noticed just recently, this is what I noticed first about Tammy Lee when I was doing some research for some other things, is there is a chart here that has a current organizational structure of the Colorado Bureau of Investigations, which of course was the agency that Tammy Lee was working for when she investigated this case, and she apparently is still working for now. So it just says it's the Colorado Bureau of Investigations, Department of Public Safety. We have the organizational structure. So here, this chart says Colorado Bureau of Investigations, 2024 organizational chart. Make it a little bigger for you, I think. Let me try that, see how it goes. Oh, maybe it's not going to do it. Maybe one of those things that doesn't really do it. Okay, so we start at the top here. We have Chris Schaefer. He's the head honcho. And then we have the various layers going down. We have the director, then we have the chief of staff, the deputy directors underneath. And then there are the directors of various departments, forensic services, the lab director, support services, and going down, so on and so forth. And then beneath that, you have the assistant directors. And then under that, you have the agent in charge. So if you're looking over here, over on this side, oops, I have to turn off my stove there. Just 1 minute. Go ahead and take a gander at that. Just let me go turn that off. Stirring the rice, my friends. Just stirring some rice. Don't anyone worry. All right. Okay. Thank you for understanding dinner. Okay. So so if we're looking over on this side, I think that I'm not sure if it'll be right or left. I'm not sure if I'm mirrored. We have the agent in charge of a division in Denver. And then we have, it says Tracy Dowd, agent in charge of high-tech crimes. And then at the very bottom, in the lower, to me, what it is, left-hand corner, we have Tammy Lee, agent in charge of cold cases. So Tammy Lee did not appear on this organizational chart for 2003, and she does appear on the organizational chart. There we go. I made it bigger. Okay. For 2024. So it seems to me that Tammy Lee got a promotion. So as you're reading down here, again, it just lists all these people in their various positions. We're going to be reading basically the same information. So we see here under the investigations division, we have the deputy director of investigations. Then we have the assistant director of investigations in Denver, the agent in charge of cold cases, Tammy Lee. Do we recognize any of these other names? Agent in charge of Denver major crimes, Greg Slater. Agent in charge of economic crimes, Tracy Dowd. Agent in charge of I'm not even sure if that is something Denver, Matt Stoneberger. Then we have Jason Hubbard. But I didn't even say it right. I was going to say it sounds familiar, but I didn't even say it right. I don't think we recognize any of these other names from the case. David Lopez, maybe. I don't even know if you saw. I know Plunder just put out a video about an agent from the Colorado Bureau of Investigations was in his car doing some surveilling before a SWAT team arrived. They had a warrant for a person's person that was assumed to be inside of this house or this building, and he thought that his body cam was off, and it wasn't. And he was caught saying some very unfortunate things. The controversy around that was that he still kept his job. He used the big bad N-word. And it's kind of interesting, you know, how much we all love Plunder. So if you're interested in watching that, go over there and check it out. His name is Doug, and I don't remember his last name. So Stuart King says NK is a cold case suspect, in my opinion. Sort of, possibly, could be, huh? Yeah. So now let's take a listen to Edward Schwank says, I usually get concerned about the time the kitchen fills with smoke. Yeah, that is it. Hey, Sherry girl, how are you doing, honey? How are you doing? I have to email you and send you my phone number. I haven't even been on email since the other night when I was on Thanksgiving night. If some of you can't watch that video, it got restricted in certain geographical areas because I used some of the Netflix trailers and things like that. So I'm sorry if you can't see it. It was a fun conversation that we had. Thank you to all of you who were there. So let's just bring in, some footage, some information. Well, let's see. Okay, so this is from JCS Criminal Psychology from that channel. So let's just watch a little bit of the initial Chris Watts interview with both Agent Graham Coder of the FBI and Tammy Lee of the CBI. I think this is pretty interesting here. Welcome to those of you who are just coming in. It's great to see all of you. Everybody come on in, get comfortable. Tracy says he was more worried about NK than his whole family he took care of. Didn't even ask about how her family was doing. Yeah. I mean, he was such a bad liar. He didn't even feign any interest of like, did you find him yet? Did you get any leads? Do you know who could have done this? Right. Yeah. Let me grab maybe a couple more comments. Sub Rosa, hey Sub Rosa, how are you doing, my friend? Says, I was not thrilled with the interrogation of Chris Watts. Leaves so many unanswered questions. And it just seems like the crime was never investigated. Hallelujah. I think many of us feel that same way. Hey, Katie, how are you doing? Katie says, I may be on my own island, but I like Tammy Lee. I like Tammy Lee too. I have some issues with her, but I like her in general. I think that she does good, honest work. I wish that, when they did the prison interview, honestly, I wish that she would have stayed mute a little more and let Graham Coder do most of the questioning, just because I guess I feel, just from what I know of this case, that he was a better questioner for Chris Watts. I think he had this certain rapport and he got more direct answers than anybody else did, but I certainly do not have a problem with her. So she said, I understand her method seemed odd to some, but they seemed right on point with other detective-y things we've all watched before. Yeah, no, I'm with you on that. All right, so let me bring in this part of the interview.
What do you think we should do?
This is what is known as a behavior-provoking question. An innocent person will usually give what is known as a draconian response. They will immediately respond with the harshest sentence possible for the crime they are falsely being accused of committing. A deceptive individual will often give an equivocating response. This means that they will fragmentize and divert from the question to a certain degree as a means to avoid responding to the query in its entirety.
They're going to come home safe, correct? When you find the guy. When we find the guy, they're going to come home. Life in prison would be that's what I would think with 2 kids that are involved. What if he hurt them? I'm not sure if that penalty is even used. Is it used in Colorado? I'm not even sure what is the death penalty. Okay. I mean, if these kids are not alive, there's nothing you could do to cope with that, to make me cope with that, if those kids are not okay. Okay. Can we keep talking about some complicated things? Sure. Some things that are going to make you uncomfortable? No, that's fine. Okay. You've done very good in talking to me about this really hard conversation you guys had. Okay. Very good. That's sometimes hard. And I understand why sometimes someone in your position says, doesn't want to tell me about that. Because please go help me find my kids, and you don't need to know about my marriage argument. Okay. So I got to say, you've done very good at that. And I need you to keep doing that. So I need to ask you about your marriage and infidelity. Sure. Okay, tell me about it.
I have never cheated on my wife.
Okay.
And I fully suspect she has never done that to me.
Oh, okay.
The interrogator was already aware that Chris was cheating on his wife with a woman by the name of Nicole Kessinger. He had handed over his phone earlier on this interview for what he thought was for the purpose of going through his and his wife's mutual contacts to look for potential suspects. Judging by Chris's bold-faced denial, it's safe to assume he deleted all of his correspondence with Nicole beforehand. Yet he was most likely unaware that the FBI have programs that can recover every single piece of digital exchange sent from a device, even long after it's deleted.
Highly trained investigator over here, right? I see pictures of you from a few years ago,
Mm-hmm.
and I see you standing before me now. Okay, you've gotten pretty fit.
Yes.
Okay. You can imagine when guys start cheating or want to cheat, that's what happens.
Yes.
So tell me about it.
I did not cheat on my wife.
Okay. What do I do to help you walk out of this room and not look like the person who's responsible?
You have to trust me. I had nothing to do with this act of like evil cruelty, whatever has happened here. Because my love for these two girls and my wife, like I don't want anything to happen to them. I've never wanted anything to happen to them. No matter if me and my wife separate or not, or divorced or anything, I never wish harm on anybody, on a human being in general.
Okay.
Like just seeing that picture, like I need them. I want them just to run through that front door and just grab me, or just just tackle me, knock me to the floor, bust my head up. I don't care. The amount of love I have for my family is exponential, and it's never going to die. And I want them back.
Okay.
I have to have them back.
When you walk out of this room, there's nothing I can say to a room full of police officers that's going to convince them that you have nothing to do with this.
I know.
You know what they think.
I know it all. Yeah.
Here's a guy who didn't call 911, who woke his wife up at a ridiculous hour because he was so guilty about something that he had to get it off his chest and say, I don't love you anymore, I'm leaving you. That didn't go well. Okay, so what happened?
She told me she wanted me to wake her up before I left. That's why I didn't just wake her up, like, just to tell her this. Like, I woke her up. That's what she wanted to do, and we talked. Like, usually at 4 a.m., I wake up, I go down and work out. This day, I wanted to talk to her about this.
I do want to say in the chat and discussion, we want everyone to join in. Please just do be kind, consider respectful to the victims and their family members. We are trying to, there's some very real issues to explore in this case, but we don't want to cause any more harm or pain or suffering to those family members. None of them deserve it. None of the family members related to any of these people involved.
I love these girls. I love these girls so much. And this picture right here, Celeste and Bella, those are my life. I helped make those kids. There's nothing in my life that means more to me than these kids. Nothing. Kids, that's your life. That's your lifeline. That's everything. Like, you make kids, they come first before anything. Kids, spouse, family. That's what it's always been.
So weird how he said, kids, that's your lifeline. You know, not, and I know many of us know that, not personalizing to kids. We're talking about Bella and Celeste. My kids, that's my lifeline. You know, just generalizing it. That's your lifeline. It goes like this. It's like kids, spouse. You can really see some pathological, I think, components of his personality here, where he, knows how it's supposed to go. He knows the guidelines. He knows the rules. But he doesn't have like that emotional connection to them. That's how I see it.
Nothing you've told me tonight makes sense. Nothing you've told me tonight feels like the truth. Can we start over? Sure. very intense, I can imagine. How are you feeling?
I slept like 2 hours last night, so I'm like running on empty right now, but
I can see it. So why don't I do this? I'm sure you don't mind.
I'm sorry, but Allie, can I just read your comment there? I'm so sorry that you went through that, and I hope that you're healing well, really and truly. That sounds really, I'm sure every day is difficult, and I hope you're healing.
Maybe we take a break for the night. I'm sure that you are feeling some of the pressure from me. Okay? I'm going to commit to you that we're not going to stop working until we find them.
Okay.
Okay? And I want to commit to you that there is going to come a time when you're going to feel this pressure from other people. I'm not the only one who thinks that there's a possibility you have something to do with this.
Like another FBI agent, like pressure, or like just like
Everyone.
okay,
Everyone, Chris.
okay.
The interrogator is clearly receptive to Chris's anxiety and endeavors to amplify this emotion before ending the interview. He wants to inflate Chris's apprehension as much as possible for the looming polygraph test that approaches the following day.
Tonight when you go home, one of two things are going to happen. You're going to pass out because you're so tired, okay? And that's probably not going to be what happens. Your head's going to go race, okay? So tonight when you lay down and your head starts racing, there's going to be things that come to your mind, okay? This always happens, always. It's very natural. You're going to say, I wonder why he asked me that, okay? You're going to say, screw him, how dare he accuse me, okay? You're going to say, I wonder if they thought of this, okay? And then you're going to say, I probably should have told him something, or this,
Like, in other words, you're going to be freaking the fuck out.
or that, okay? Those are the most common things. When those thoughts come to your head, I want you to call me. And those are beautiful kids. Those kids have a good dad, and I know it.
Let's just see the picture of someone for him.
Yeah.
It's a better one, but it's just, I'm sorry too.
Those kids have a good dad.
The following discourse from the officer could be construed as the reframing technique, where an interrogator will try and shift the suspect's view of themselves from negative to positive as a means to lightening the iniquity of their crimes and increasing the chances of a confession. However, this is more likely what is known as passive accusation, where the interrogator is almost certain of the suspect's guilt and indirectly accuses and in some manner indignifies the suspect. This is made evident by the high praises the officer gives to Chris for extremely trivial deeds.
A lot of dads don't get second pairs of clothes and cook eggs and give them snacks at night. You know, a lot of men, that's woman's work, right?
I like to get involved.
You're not that kind of guy, okay? So can we say that tomorrow at 11 o'clock?
You know, and he does that the technique that he was just talking about, you know, giving him big praise for even the most menial tasks, even, you know, into the interview at Dodge Correctional Facility after he's already sentenced. I mean, he's really got Chris psychology down. Now, if you haven't, I did put up a poll question, if you don't mind answering it. It's pretty close. It was hard for me to figure out how to phrase the question right, so I hope it makes sense. It said, do you think, in 100 characters or less, do you think that Tammy Lee's use of the Reid technique, this is when she portrayed Shanann Watts as a possible perpetrator, you know, chicks are crazy, that whole thing, was that good technique? So far, 45% of you have said yes, and 56% of you have said no. So everybody, please put in your vote. I'd really like to know what you think about that.
Okay.
We can do a polygraph?
Sure.
Here. I appreciate you coming in tonight. All right, give me a few seconds.
You have pants right now?
This is Tammy. Did you meet Tammy yesterday?
No,
Okay, no, I was Tammy.
Hi, Chris. How are you?
So on this,
Yep, I know. I'll explain what that is here in a little bit, but you don't have to worry. It's not on or anything right now. It's not gonna buzz you or anything. Obviously, you're probably nervous about taking today's test. Honestly, I would think something is wrong with you if you weren't nervous about coming in here to take a polygraph. Even if people are like, I don't have anything to hide, it is nerve-wracking. And I have taken tons of polygraphs. Obviously, in my training, I went to 10 weeks for training. I've been a polygrapher for about 5 years. I went to the best school in the country. So I want you to have confidence in the fact that you had nothing to do with this disappearance. Like, we're going to find that out today. Okay. I have the best training that they offer in the United States. We use the most validated testing. That's the way I'm going to ask you the questions. So believe me, if you had nothing to do with this, I will be able to show them that today.
This is psychological pressure disguised as reassurance. It's not a routine procedure during the pre-test phase of a polygraph exam, yet this technique will be used when the suspect's guilt is almost conclusive. Polygraphs are not a foolproof system, and they can be beaten, but with a heightened state of anxiety, it becomes considerably more challenging and unlikely. On this occasion, the polygrapher distinctly applies this technique for maximal effect.
There's actually only two ways you can fail a polygraph, okay? The first way would be if you fail to follow my instructions. I'm going to give you a lot of instructions today about how to sit still, how to answer questions, things like that. So if you fail to follow those instructions, you will not pass today's test, okay? The second way would be if you choose to lie to me today. You know, if you did have something to do with their disappearance, it would be really stupid for you to come in and take a polygraph today.
Exactly.
Right? Like, it would be really dumb. Like, you should not be here right now sitting in this chair if you had anything to do with Shanann and the little girl's disappearance, okay?
But yeah, everything flourished from there. Like in 2011, I proposed to her over in Ocean Isle Beach. And she was just sitting there crying with a little picture notice, and she recorded it. It was an amazing day just to see that. And then Celeste, I was there, like, she had a midwife for this one. So, like, they actually had me, like, you can stand here and, like, you know, catch her. And, like, but Celeste came out, like, so fast that, like, I barely had a chance to go like this, and they moved me out of the way. She just, like, came out.
The polygrapher will also obtain the examinee's version of the facts regarding the specific issues under investigation.
Like, I was just hoping that I would get that knock on the door or a phone call or a text. I mean, her phone, they have her phone. Like, hopefully, maybe it's a number I don't know. Hopefully, it's like, you know, like a burner phone or some kind of like phone she bought, and she could just text me and call me like, hey, I'm okay. Something, or just get a knock on the door, and then the kids just run in. I miss, like, the kids, like, sitting at the dinner table and, like, having to tell them to eat their dinner, and, like, I miss them throwing the chicken nuggets at me. Like, I just want to find them. I want them to come home safe, like, wherever they are. I hope they are safe. And I really hope they can just come home.
Thank you, Kimberly, by the way. That's a really nice compliment. I really appreciate that. I strive to keep it real, so I very much appreciate that. Thank you. You know, this is the second time that Chris Watts is remembering his children in terms of them throwing chicken nuggets at him. You know, he says that also when the investigators were in his house. And he's like, yeah, last night was really weird. Like, you know, I missed them after dinner, like throwing chicken nuggets at me. And like, what's up with that? Why? I just a little bit of a random question. Why is that sticking in his mind as a story to tell? He talks about very bizarre things.
It makes me feel like, all right, maybe somebody has her that's not keeping her safe, or something terrible has happened, and that's the nightmare.
And what would that terrible thing be?
That somebody hurt them.
Chris recounts a brief summary of the events and states multiple vague possibilities for his family's disappearance. The polygrapher then starts to elect specific timelines for Chris to give his account on.
You said the next thing you know is her getting into bed with you. Is that right?
I felt her get into bed. We didn't say anything because I just kind of felt it.
Okay. Do you know if she was on her phone or like how any of that works?
I don't think she was on her phone.
Was she mad at all?
I mean, crying like she was, crying like I was. I mean, she was upset, but I mean, it comes with that kind of conversation.
In the next moments, you will see another subterfuge of psychological pressure, this time disguised as routine questioning procedure.
And I know it's totally awful to think about, but what are ways, because I need to make sure that you know what I'm talking about, what are ways that you can make someone disappear?
I mean, like, if you're talking about like what I've seen like on the movies, or like how people, if you read about other people, I mean.
No, dude, we're talking about what you and Nicole Kessinger have been talking about and what you just did.
You hire somebody?
Like a hitman?
Yeah,
Yeah.
I'm just being honest.
No, that's what I want. Because I want you to go through all of these scenarios in your head, because I want you to know for sure what I'm talking about when I say that, asking you if you physically caused her disappearance.
Okay, like you'd hire somebody, or you have somebody you know that would do it. I mean, it's like, it's hard. It's
And
a
I
hard
know
question.
this, and I know this stuff,
It's a hard
but,
question to answer
right,
because it had nothing to do with this disappearance.
Right.
But like, I don't even want to think about like, if you're asking like how I would do it, like
anyone, like
anyone
how would,
One thing I like about Tammy Lee is when Chris Watts says things are just absolutely effing absurd, she just goes, right, and then just like moves on. I like that about her.
anyone cause someone else's disappearance?
I mean, you would. I said like
You could cause someone's disappearance by murdering them. Would
Yes.
you agree with that?
Yes.
So what different physical ways could you cause someone's disappearance through murder? You could stab someone,
Stab
right?
someone, shoot someone, hit them with a blunt object. What else is there? I mean, use a weapon like gun or a knife. I mean,
Okay.
You could.
You could suffocate your babies twice and then stuff them in a crude oil tank. How about that, you dumb bastard? Like, seriously, as compared to these things like he's listing here, the disgrace in which he ended his family's life it's still to this day and always will be unbelievable.
You could smother someone.
Someone.
You could strangle someone.
Hang someone. I mean, yeah, you can. All that kind of things. I mean, it's hard to even think about that kind of stuff right now.
Mm-hmm. So you could strangle someone. You could drown someone.
Yeah.
You could shock someone to death. You could burn someone alive. What other ways can you think of?
As far as like lure them into a trap, I guess.
What do you mean? What?
Like, like have somebody waiting like around the corner and like, hey,
Sure.
They're in a coma.
I want to highlight this comment because to this day, this always, I think this is weird too. Alice in Wonderland says a babysitter's kid, the Lindstrom, Jeremy and Jennifer Lindstrom's kid. He says, just in the middle of the interview, he just like comes up, he becomes more clear in the mic, says, I don't know why. I just picture them sitting in a hole. And, and I definitely do believe in, the intuitive potential of children is so much stronger than of us adults. And, to this day, that strikes me as something too.
So if I ask you that question on the test, Chris, are you going to have any issue with that? About you
Like-
physically causing
Going through every
someone's
single one of
disappearance?
those.
Yeah, like that would be a way you could cause someone's disappearance.
Okay.
Right.
I can definitely.
Right,
like,
Stuart.
I can.
Right.
I mean,
I mean, you could murder them, you could kidnap them, you could take them to another country, you could, bury them in your backyard. You could do a million things.
Yeah.
As far as trying to conceal them.
Yeah.
Right? So that no one can find them.
Yes.
Because at this point, she's gone. So when I ask you the question on the test, I'm not asking you about guilt. I'm not asking you about, did you make her feel so horrible that she ended up leaving? I'm saying that you were the one that physically caused her to disappear.
Okay.
Either by murder, kidnapping, all of those other things that we went through, okay?
You want me to list? You want me to?
Ashley, Victoria, I was just saying this to Sherry too. I literally haven't been on my channel email. I'm going on right now and I'm going to reply to both you and Sherry since Thanksgiving night. Things have been crazy and I feel so bad about that because I told you to reach out to me. You're going to have an email from me in 60 seconds, I promise.
List all those like.
No.
Oh,
You're just
okay.
going to say no to that question.
Okay.
Right. When I ask you if you physically caused Shanann's disappearance,
Okay.
your answer should be what?
No.
Right. So do you have any issues with that at all? And
No.
or have any question about what I would mean when I was?
No,
would be
that's
asking
totally.
this?
I just like going through all those that. That's
Right.
a lot to really think about.
Right. But
Like
that's,
trying to figure out like, that was.
I'm going to have you take a bathroom break.
Thank
We've
you.
been in here quite a while. So you're going to be taking what's called a directed lie polygraph. So what that means is there are going to be questions on the test where I want you to lie. I know it seems kind of weird, but you're going to know which questions these are, and they're going to be easy to answer. They're all going to start with before 2018.
The directed lie test has 3 types of questions. Known truth questions. These are easy questions to answer, such as, are you sitting down? Or are you wearing shoes? They serve 2 purposes. The first purpose is to provide a baseline reading for when the subject is telling the truth, and should elicit very little bodily responses. The second purpose is to disconnect the examinee's thought patterns between each question as a means for resetting their cerebration for a more accurate reading. Control questions. These are what the polygrapher just explained to Chris. Whenever she says, before 2018, at the start of a question, Chris will know he is purposely supposed to lie. Each of these questions are deliberately constructed that all answers will be responded with no. Relevant questions. These relate specifically to the crime being investigated, and the examinee will know that they are supposed to respond truthfully. A guilty subject will show a much stronger reaction to the relevant questions than to the control questions, even though they will be lying on both of them. This is due to the immediate threat posed by the relevant questions.
So I'm going to say before 2018, did you ever lose your temper with someone you cared about? And you're going to say,
No.
because you're telling a
Lie.
awesome.
Ashley and Sherry, those emails have been sent.
The test is about to begin. Please remain still. Did you write the number 1?
No.
Did you write the number 3?
No.
Did you write the number 5?
No.
This portion of the test is complete. Please remain still while I take the instrument out of operation. Okay, you can relax. How'd you feel?
This is the last time the polygrapher will have any correspondence with Chris before the real test begins. She gives him an initial compliment in a reassuring tone.
You did great.
That was,
You remembered to lie and everything. That was awesome.
This momentary boost in his confidence is then abruptly ripped away as he receives the following information.
So you obviously are a really bad liar. Have people told you that before? Like the second you tell a lie, like they can tell like on your face that. Because the second you lied to the number 3, like, I don't know if you heard me clicking, but I had, like, turned down the sensitivity because you're starting to go off the page. So that is what I need to see as a polygrapher, because that tells me that you know it's wrong to tell a lie, and you're actually having a significant reaction when you lie. So that is awesome. So thank you for being a horrible liar. No, that's a good thing. That's a good thing. We don't want to be good liars. So thank you for being a horrible liar. And that just shows me that, you know, obviously on the test when they're asking, you know, significant stuff about your wife, if you're lying to that, it's going to be even 10 times more amplified. So I appreciate that. I appreciate that very much, more than you know. So that was awesome. And the coolest thing about this is right now, there's only one person in this room that knows what the truth is. And in about 5 minutes, there's going to be 2 of us. So that's the coolest part, okay? And then I can go share that with them out there, okay? All right, you ready?
Do it.
The test is about to begin. Please remain still. Do you understand I will only ask you the questions we have discussed?
Yes.
Regarding Shanann's disappearance, do you intend to answer all of the questions truthfully?
Yes.
Is your first name Christopher?
Yes.
Before 2018, did you ever lose your temper with someone you cared about?
No.
Did you physically cause Shanann's disappearance?
No.
Were you born in 1985?
Yes.
Before 2018, did you ever say anything out of anger to a loved one?
No.
Are you lying about the last time you saw Shanann?
No.
Are you now in the state of Colorado?
Yes.
Before 2018, have you ever wanted to hurt someone to get even with them?
No.
Do you know where Shanann is now?
No.
This portion of the test is complete. Please remain still while I take the instrument out of operation. All right, how'd you feel? Same as all of it?
I think it was the same to everything.
For you. I'll be right back.
Okay.
Okay, now a point that I want to make about this polygraph exam, and this is explained to some degree by Tammy Lee, and it's also been explained by other experts in the field who are experts in polygraph examinations. Now, some people have said, in this polygraph exam, first of all, a lot of people do not trust the results as they are reported. I personally do. But that's just me, and we could have a discussion about this. But some people say, well, they didn't ask any questions about the kids. Like, how could they have told anything about the crime because they didn't ask any questions about the kids? She explains, and again, it's been explained by other experts, that she's only going to be asking about Shanann because it's understood in this crime. And again, they already had a really good idea of what happened in this crime and his level of guilt. Because children are going to be with Shanann. You can't, when you're administering a poly test, you cannot accurately determine truthfulness or deception if you're asking questions across a number of topics, whether they are widely ranging or narrowly ranging, even so far as your missing wife, your missing daughter A, your missing daughter B. You can only ask questions that have one focal point, one main subject. So in this case, it makes sense that it is Shanann. The way a polygraph examination is designed to be most accurate, reliable, and replicable, which are indicators of accuracy, is to have one question asked on a focus subject, which again, in this case, is Shanann. It would not be possible in this polygraph session for her to ask about Shanann, then ask about Bella, then ask about Celeste. It would not give accurate results. So that argument that this test is unreliable because they did not ask about the children is just completely, it's just wrong.
No.
No.
Oh my gosh, I did forget part of it.
Let me hear that video again, because I think I know what you're
Same
doing.
as all of it.
So haunting. This is the final video interacting as a phone.
Oh my gosh, I did forget part of it, didn't I? So I brought Graham in here because we want to talk to you about the results, okay?
Sure.
So, it is completely clear that you were not honest during the testing. I think you already know that. You did not pass the polygraph test.
Okay.
Okay. So now we need to talk about what actually happened. I feel like you're probably ready to do that.
You're good, Pepper.
I didn't lie to you on that polygraph, I promise.
Chris, I'm not stop. Time. Just stop for a minute. Take a deep breath. I want you to take a deep breath right now.
Let me show you how to block this ad. First,
Okay, so a couple comments here. So welcome to those of you who are coming in. So Ashley Victoria says, I don't know why they reenacted the camera monitors in the house, and if he could have seen her, etc. I never knew that, so that was news to me. So what was news to you? How they reenacted the camera angles and stuff? Yeah, the investigators did do that, but I'm not sure what is news to you. If you can clarify, I would like to know. Hey, Crime and Crochet, how are you doing? Crime and Crochet says, I think she knew he was guilty and thought giving him an out was right thing to do because he ultimately confessed to the whole thing. Yeah. So, they followed the Reid technique to the book. I'm imagining that they discussed it beforehand, but I think that from my perception, Tammy Lee gave the first indicator it was going down that road to somebody who was observing, and then they went down there pretty seamlessly. Mary Beth says, I didn't know that was the final thing he did. He watched the girls playing on his phone. I think that's just chilling. Yeah, it was a trampoline. So Ashley Victoria correctly says it was a trampoline park. That video, I think, I often wonder how he could watch that right after it happened with no tears or reaction. It's truly, that is what makes him a psychopath, I think, right? I mean, that's unbelievable. Stuart King correctly says, no tears, hint of emotion, viewing videos of children on his phone. Yeah, I can't squeeze blood out of a stone. Ain't that true, Victoria? Sunkiss said, I never heard Chris watch videos of the kids while he was sitting there. You've just heard of it. Yeah. No, it's just, I think, chilling every time. Hey, Susan Peterson, nice to see ya. Thank you, Mother of Rescue. So kind. Compliments, thank you. In my opinion, Tammy did a good job with the interrogation and getting him to talk. She manipulated him well, she did. I just love it when she's like, you know what the best thing is? Right now, or by the time when this is done, you know, right now only one of us knows the truth, but by the time this is done, both of us are going to know the truth. Oh my God. I just thought that was freaking awesome. That was good. I think that was her ace move. Alice Wonderland says, but the use of the Reid technique, I think, gave DA Rourke the impetus to offer the plea deal. Perhaps. So actually, let's kind of go down that road a little bit. Well, let's see, where are we going to? So this, I'm going to bring in something different. This is from Beyond the Headlines, from cable network channel. I don't know. I'll pop in the description. I'm not sure what channel it's from. Let me pause and pop forward a little bit because, again, this is from a cable production. So, you know, I want the video to be able to be watched on replay.
Please bring her back.
In my opinion,
Just for one moment here, I'm just popping this. I don't want to forget. I'm just putting this real quick. Oops. In the credits for putting the credits in this video. So I don't forget to do that. I hate it when I forget to do that. Just give me 30 seconds here. Credit to Beyond the Headlines, and then the link, and also JCS Psychology. Okay, thank you.
he showed no urgency. There was no emotion behind what he was saying.
Oh, John,
Who's
right?
ready to hatch some cool pets?
No.
Click here to make your very own monster on Adapted Mind, where monsters teach you math. Oh my.
Wait a minute.
That monster.
Did I close down StreamYard? Just one second. I think I did. Hold it. Sorry, guys, if you can still hear me. I'm not sure if you can. Hey. Uh-oh. Give me one second. Where did I? Okay, I'm so sorry. I closed down my own StreamYard link. I'm really sorry about that, guys. All right, so let me bring that back into the stream. I was just clicking away too fast and furious. Yeah. Oh, what? I'm having
Monster looks.
I need to see everybody.
I don't know about you, but I was a little disgusted actually watching the interviews,
No,
the conducted his first interview with Chris Watts.
This is the preamble for a consensual recording at the police station with Chris Watts.
He created a bond with Chris very quickly that he knew Chris would not want to disappoint him in any way.
What do you think happened? At first,
Now I'm going to actually bring a different video into the stream because this is my own video, so we're not going to have to worry about the copyright restrictions. And you maybe have seen this before.
To rehab his marriage with his wife.
He said.
Do you know her name at this point?
Yeah.
Okay. Are you okay saying her name?
It's Shanann.
All right. And do you know the children's name?
Yes, it's Bella and Celeste.
Okay.
Cece.
She went by, they called her Cece. All right. So he went to, were they in North Carolina
They were already
already?
there.
If you want something.
I'm not gonna stomach to do that. Yeah, they were already out there. He just flew out there to meet up.
Do you know why they were there?
They're all from there.
Okay. So they were there
They
for,
were visiting her family for the most part until he got there, and then they still were mostly visiting her family.
okay.
This video excerpt is from the August 16th interview of Chris Watts' former mistress. Now, the audio portion of this video had been available for 3 years since the initial discovery was released, but it was only recently, in April of 2022, was the video portion of this interview released, and that was only after a YouTube creator put some pressure on the district attorney's office.
And that was plunder. Here we go with the dreadful, insufferable, and
In my profession, I observe and analyze behavior. One thing that we know is that 80% of human communication is nonverbal. That means communication happens through body language, through facial expressions, through the way a person holds their posture. A good example of the importance of this nonverbal communication is when Chris Watts was interviewed on his porch the day after his family went missing. In this case, his facial expressions, his micro expressions, were absolutely not matching what he was saying or what, a person would be feeling or experiencing when their whole family disappeared and they've been gone for over a day. We also see examples of the importance of nonverbal communication in the trial that's going on right now between Johnny Depp and Amber Heard.
Obviously, I made this video a while ago.
What I'm getting at here, guys, is a specific movement Chris Watts' former mistress makes, a nonverbal communication, if you will, when Agent Coder asks if she knows Shanann's name. Now, this shady empanada has managed to get through hours of interview without saying Shanann's name. Agent Kobach has to ask her again, specifically, can you say her name? The first time she says Shanann's name, look at what she does with her hands.
Let's go back to North Carolina.
Okay.
He went to North Carolina and he was trying to rehab his marriage with his wife.
He said.
Do you know her name at this point?
Yeah.
Okay. Are you okay saying her name?
It's Shanann.
All right.
Yeah.
Okay. Are you
You got to admit, this is weird.
okay saying her name?
It's Shanann.
Look at that. Huh? Say what? With your hands?
Shanann.
All right. And
It's Shanann.
all right. And
I take the time to belabor the point. in the
Chris,
video.
while he was talking to Agent Coder, made a lot of movements towards his neck area, says Tammy Lee.
Yes, Stuart. Yeah.
let's go back to North Carolina.
Okay.
He went to North Carolina and he was trying to rehab his marriage with his wife.
He
Do
said.
you know her name at this point?
Yeah.
Okay. Are you okay saying her name?
It's Shanann.
All right. And do you know the children's name?
Yes, it's Bella and Celeste.
Okay.
Cece.
She went by, they called her Cece. Do you recall where the house was?
Yeah, it's like right off the highway in Frederick.
Okay. You know the streets?
I mean, I'm sure I could figure it out again if I like really had to. Like off the top of my head, no.
Do you know the street name?
No. I would have to like drive around.
It just seemed like he had so much going on, and it was just beautiful that I was like, why don't you just try this out, you know?
Into it, and I did not like it and did not want to go back.
It's well known that NK's phone pinged in Frederick, Colorado 3 times. The third ping happened at 6:16 a.m. on August 13, 2018. Today, Bella and Cece went missing.
Do you recall where the house was?
Yeah, it's like right off the highway in Frederick.
Okay. You know the streets?
I mean, I'm sure I could figure it out again if I like really had to. Like off the top of my head, no.
Do you know the street name?
No. I would have to like drive around in there to get there.
Okay.
From Discovery, the limited records of Miss Kessinger's Google searches tells us August 11, 2018 at 10:04 p.m. after an evening tryst with Watts, Kessinger searched Ronnie Watts, Shanann Watts, and 2825 Saratoga Trail. We also know that Miss Kessinger demanded Chris Watts prove his location the morning of August 13, 2018. Chris Watts is at serving 319. Did anyone else know what he was doing there? Okay, so yeah. No, stop playing that. That's gonna copyright ding me for sure. Oh, I close all my windows. Okay, just one moment, please. Let me get YouTube open back up, pop in my history, and I will pick up what I have lined up next for you along the lines of what the investigation yielded and headed towards why I believe they completely avoided Nicole Kessinger. If you hear something crazy in the background, one of my bunnies is into tinfoil. I'll go fix that in a minute here. Oh, bunnies, oh, bunnies. All right, let me just bring this in right here. Welcome to those of you coming in. So glad you're here. Everyone, come on in. If you're new here, please let us know where you're from and say hello. Let me go get that tinfoil out of my bunny's mouth.
Our interactions with Chris Watts in the weeks and the days
Lily.
leading up to the murders. Before that, we will continue to explore what law enforcement knew about Nicole Kessinger's guilty knowledge or actions as it relates to this crime. Of information this channel has recently obtained about this crime that is exclusive. This part 2 has been separated into 2 parts. So this is the first part.
I just want to show you here really quick. This is what happens when your bunnies interact with a roll of tin foil. Yeah, Skylar did that. Hope she didn't like swallow it because I'm going to go check on it.
Of part 2. The second part is forthcoming up soon.
Honestly, like I try to picture that whole ride, like it's like 45 minutes to an hour ride out there. And it's just like, couldn't I have like saved my girl's life? Couldn't I have done something? Why did I do it? I don't know.
Right.
Like this is my flesh and blood. This is like what I wanted all my life, was to be a dad, just to have, kids, and they love me, they, all that, and it just nothing made sense.
I can do that. I don't mind giving you guys my time. I just need you guys to like help me with my employer and try to just help me brace for this immediate thing.
Even though I didn't know them, it's very surreal. They lived in this town. I guarantee I passed them at the grocery store, I know people who know them. I always think of the last daughter. I wonder what they saw. I think about the last one and how afraid she must have been.
Hello.
And God bless their souls.
What we're looking at here is some of the actual footage from the drive from Saratoga Trail in Frederick, Colorado to Survey 319. Every time I see this, every single time, I think about Bella and I try to make myself imagine what it was she was feeling on this ride. And every single time it reminds me without any doubt that justice is worth pursuing, even if it takes a long time and even if there are some kind of shady stops along the way.
To say the least. You're good, Pepper. No worries. I'm just glad you're here.
For that night?
On Saturday?
Yeah, his kid. Well, his kids are with the babysitter. Do you know where his wife is?
She's in Arizona.
Okay. How do you know that?
Because he told me.
Okay. Do you know what she's doing there?
I think she's on a business trip. He didn't even tell me right away. He actually told me, I think, like on Saturday or something. It might have been like Friday or something. I honestly don't remember. I just remember I was like really surprised where he's like, hey, like, I'm going to try to get a babysitter if you want to hang out or something like that. And I was like, why do you need a babysitter? Like, your wife's home. He's like, no, she's out of town.
Okay. Is there much conversation regarding that, her on being on a trip, or the children during those conversations?
Not really. I just asked him what time she was coming home on Sunday, and he just said really late.
Okay.
And that was it. I mean, there's nothing really to talk about with that.
I want you to remember what Nicole Kessinger said right here. We are going to return to this later in this video and take a look at her body language when he asked if they talked about Shanann or the girls.
Is there much conversation regarding that, her on being on a trip, or the children during those conversations?
Not really. I just asked him what time she was coming home on Sunday, and he just said really late.
Okay.
And that was it. I mean, there's nothing really to talk about with that.
During those conversations?
Not really. I just asked him what time she was coming home on Sunday, and he just said really late.
Okay.
And that was it. I mean, there's nothing really to talk about with that.
Okay.
Before moving forward into the part 2 content of this video series, let's first do a recap of what was discussed in part 1. The most important question that we asked, and we're hoping could possibly be answered, can be bounced over to District Attorney Rourke. Hey, Rourke, what's up with this statement.
Nicole Kessinger turned out to have information that I can best describe as being a bombshell.
District Attorney Rourke, I call your bluff.
And I
So
will
we
continue to-
established through a conversation between Kevin Kobach and Stacey Galbraith and CBI's Tammy Lee that Nicole Kessinger was not, in fact, an eyewitness. That was not the bombshell evidence.
I had to write a letter yesterday for Will County to approve, to pay for her treatment.
Oh.
And then it's got to go through a board because it's kind of unusual.
Yeah.
Since she's not an eyewitness.
So we did learn that part of Nicole Kessinger's victim package that she received from the state was free therapy for victims of crimes. And I didn't even need to tell you this. The discovery makes it pretty clear, but it was on the first day that the FBI interviewed Nicole Kessinger, 2 days after the murders of Shanann, Bella, Celeste, and unborn baby Nico, did the FBI declare that she would be protected. Her identity would be protected. She was a protected witness. It's right here. Before interviewing her, before interrogating her, before checking out her alibi or vetting her, the FBI declared her protected from day one.
Pretty incredible.
In addition to District Attorney Rourke declaring that Nicole Kessinger had what he could best describe as being bombshell evidence, he also described how she came to law enforcement and what it was she had to offer. We found this to be really curious because what he said does not align with any of the facts as we well know them to be.
Law enforcement got a phone call from a woman named Nicole Kessinger. She said that she had information and was offering to be interviewed as part of this investigation to offer up to investigators what she knew.
But of course, District Attorney Rourke, that silly guy, he doesn't always tell it exactly like it is. So it's more like this. Nicole Kessinger came forward because Anandarko's Tony Husky, the supervisor for the division that she and Chris Watts worked for, found emails between Nicole Kessinger and Chris Watts from June 12th, 2018, that indicated to him that they might have a little romance brewing. When she found that out, of course she had to go to law enforcement because they were going to come to her if she didn't get to them first. And she certainly didn't share with law enforcement what she knew, just like that, easy breezy, because over the course of these several hours, almost 10 hours that law enforcement interviewed Nicole Kessinger, she changed her story on every material fact or point several times. And also, as we know, she deleted everything, all correspondence and anything having to do with herself and Chris Watts from her cell phone. And she also tried to bust her SIM card. So no, District Attorney Rourke, Nicole Kessinger was not forthcoming. Let's just be clear about that.
What did that cause you to do with your phone, though?
Oh, what? When I deleted those? I was just kind of grossed out by him, to be honest with you. I removed it.
So you you already said, but you removed text messages.
I just want to take a moment to point out that our friend Sherry is pointing out to us that this is District Attorney Rourke's last available term as District Attorney of Weld County, Colorado, because yes, he was reelected having ran uncontested again. But guess what, District Attorney Rourke, the time is ticking, the countdown is on, and it is less than 4 possible years to go until you are out, and justice will have a chance at being refreshed.
It was the hurt that made me delete it. And then it was the lie that made me start questioning everything else he'd been telling me for the last few days.
And that's when you decided to come forward.
Yeah.
She was interviewed on multiple occasions. I believe that for the most part, she was forthcoming in the course of those investigations.
This man, this district attorney, this champion of justice is clearly all over the place. He changes his story nearly as much as Nicole Kessinger does. And we have to ask why that is. Well, in the part 1, we went over all of the things that District Attorney Rourke knew during the time of this investigation about Nicole Kessinger and everything else. We went over things that he knew when he decided, oh, it is time to accept Chris Watts' plea deal and just get this whole thing over with. And the things that he knew raise some serious questions. Let's do a summary of the part 1 because all of this information is critical. Number 1, Kessinger was treated as a witness from day 1. Number 2, the FBI protected her from day 1. Number 3, Rourke mischaracterized her reason for coming forward. Number 4, Rourke over-exaggerated the value of her statements in helping the investigation and ultimately solving this crime. Number 5, Rourke said himself that she hampered the investigation and that she was forthcoming for the most part.
As you correctly pointed out, Stuart.
And finally, Rourke was aware of incriminating evidence that would show that Nicole Kessinger had guilty knowledge of this horrible crime and possibly more. Rourke was also aware of how the evidence in this case was handled, what evidence was collected, how it was processed, if it was processed or analyzed at all. He also was aware of the direction the investigation was heading in had he not accepted the plea deal from Chris Watts. We are left with these central questions. Why did District Attorney Rourke accept a plea deal from Chris Watts, putting no conditions whatsoever on that plea deal? Why did District Attorney Rourke and law enforcement protect Nicole Kessinger? Why was there a need to protect Chris Watts' mistress, and how did protecting her benefit law enforcement or District Attorney's office? Since we know by Nicole Kessinger's own admission and District Attorney Rourke's statements, she did in fact break laws. She deleted evidence, she destroyed evidence, she obstructed justice. What was the full extent of her knowledge or involvement before, during, or after these horrific crimes? And since we know that she did commit offenses, why were serious, chargeable offenses completely ignored? Here's where things get tricky. To answer all of those questions, especially together, you can't really find an answer that makes sense. You can come up with things like, well, obviously people didn't really want to know what happened. People didn't want to know.
Hey, John McSmith, welcome, friend.
Oh, if there was more than one person involved in this horrible crime, or they just didn't really care to know the whole story at all. They figured, no one was really going to be interested. The families weren't going to care. The lives didn't matter. So they just weren't really going to look into it too deeply, right? And that doesn't make any sense. That's absurd, right? If you've been following this case at all, it's likely that you've heard Tammy Lee's statement about, we had so much more work to do. It felt so weird.
We didn't examine all the evidence. We didn't interview every witness we needed to. We didn't do all of these things that you would do in a normal investigation because he stopped the clock.
Case of a missing mother and her 2 young daughters. Their father pleading for their safe return, but this morning, he's the one in custody.
And all of a sudden, I receive a phone call from Detective Baumover. And he said, hey, Chris is going to plead guilty to all charges.
Christopher Watts has pleaded guilty to killing his pregnant wife, Shanann, and 2 young daughters, Bella and Celeste, and their unborn son, Nico.
Whoa, wait, we're not done. We have all these things to do. We were relieved that it was going to be over, but at the same time, we felt like, in a sense, we didn't finish.
As Tammy Lee said, Chris Watts,
he stopped the clock.
In saying that Chris Watts' plea stopped the clock, that implies that prior to the clock stopping, prior to the plea, the investigation was being handled with great curiosity, vigor, and a sense of justice. And my friends, that was not the case at all. I am going to lay out the facts and the timeline for you right here and right now, so any confusion can be lifted and we can all be clear on the fact that that investigation really stopped more than 2 months before Chris Watts pled. If you're not ready to face that hard truth, I suggest that you pause and gather yourself right now, because I'm about to lay it all out for you real clear.
The only way they could have left is in your truck. The only way they could have left is in your truck.
Nicole Kessinger turned out to have information that I can best describe as being a bombshell.
initially, you drew concern from me when you told me you deleted everything from Chris. I've already told you that. You understand why. There's no question as to why that might cause concern. So,
Okay, my friend. So there you heard Tammy Lee telling Chris Watts that she knows that Bella, Celeste, and his wife Shanann left their home in his work truck and they were missing at the time. And then we have DA Rourke describing the information Nicole Kessinger gave law enforcement as being bombshell. And then we have CBI's agent Kevin Kobach talking to Miss Kessinger and saying, initially you drew concern for me when you deleted all of your text messages between yourself and Chris Watts, and there's no question as to why that is. The investigators and the prosecution have given us some key facts about this case, things that they know for certain. Number one, they know that Chris Watts' family, who is missing, left the house in his work truck. We also know that Miss Kessinger is a big part of this investigation, according to DA Rourke, bombshell information. And then we have the multiple interviews with Nicole Kessinger and Kevin Kobach, in which she repeatedly lies about why she deleted her messages, the text messages between herself and Chris Watts, and any information that relates to Chris Watts on her phone. They also know that Chris Watts' work truck played a pivotal part in this crime. And these investigators, they don't really know what part she may have played leading up to, during the murders, or in the attempted cover-up of the murders. Since the original recording of this Part 2 material, we have learned a lot about what the investigators actually knew about Nicole Kessinger's involvement, and you will learn that too. One unknown is about Nicole Kessinger's role in this crime, in the planning of the crime, in the execution of the crime, or the cover-up of the crime. Based on evidence that was collected in the days following the murders from Chris Watts' work truck, they know that when that evidence is analyzed, it's going to be very telling. Chris Watts' work truck was a central focus from the very beginning. Check out this broadcast here. It was breaking news in the 10 o'clock news on August 16th, 2018, the same day that Chris Watts supposedly confessed. Reporters were standing outside of the house, and they were reporting on Chris Watts' work truck being towed and evidence being taken from that work truck. This was in hours and days after the murders happened. They had the evidence. They had the evidence that would have started to answer the questions regarding Nicole Kessinger's role in this crime due to her proximity to the crime scene, as of course, Chris Watts' work truck was part of the crime scene.
Hi, I am live right now outside the home of Chris Watts and Shanann Watts, and you can see behind me, police are here right now processing the evidence inside the home. Denver 7's Jace Larson was able to confirm through sources that Chris Watts has confessed to killing his pregnant wife and their two little girls, Bella and Celeste. And we know that right now police are digging up the bodies, that they know where the bodies are and that they are looking for them right now. So right now police have been towing a truck that was parked just a couple of houses down. We didn't know it was connected to the house, but they towed that as well. And they just came out with the family's dog in a cage as well. So they also went in there with evidence bags, and they showed up right around 10 o'clock, right when we were working on the newscast.
Whoops. Chris Watts' work truck that fateful evening, or rather the early morning hours of August 13th, 2018. It's almost too charmed, isn't it? If you're someone who wants justice for these victims, it is too charmed, because we've already established that it was determined Nicole Kessinger would be protected from day one, literally day one, by the highest law enforcement agency in the United States of America, by the FBI. So that certainly will get in the way of an honest investigation that seeks truth and justice. And we always have to remember that when we're examining this case.
The importance of protecting Nicole Kessinger is a sad reality of this case. So let's look at the importance of the evidence in Chris Watts' work truck in another light.
Wait.
It's important in a number of ways.
I
If law
don't want
enforcement
to go into the work truck information because it just veers a little bit off topic here, but let me, because I closed down my windows, I just got to pull my history back up. There we go. Okay. Why am I seeing ads? All right, let me just switch this up here. Great to see you, John McSmith. This is a good question, Slabrosa. Wait just one second. Yeah, all right. Okay.
He had already talked. His father was at the police department at that moment. He had already talked about his father being his hero. We wanted to bring up Chris's father because we knew how important he was in his life. We knew that Chris, if he was honest with anyone, it would probably be his father. He trusted his father. That was very clear to us. He thought the world of his father. So we wanted to let him know, like, your father would want you to tell the truth too.
Can I talk to my dad or something?
Absolutely. Do you want to bring him in here?
No, I just can't talk to my dad. Like, I flew across the country. I can't.
How about this? If we brought your dad in here, would you please tell him what happened?
When Chris asked to talk to his dad, it was immediately concerning first. And he
Well, no, that's not her. You're her. I can see that she's not up. Well, choking like a girl. Did she kill him? Never. They're blue. Both of them. Yeah. She took both of them with that. I freaked out when she had me.
It was pretty much gut-wrenching to hear Chris talking and doing something. We didn't know at that point what Ronnie's reaction was going to be. So time was of the essence for us to get back in there so that we could redirect the interview and try and get more of the facts and more of the truth.
You know, that was one of the things that struck me was that Shannon was buried in a shallow grave and the kids were separated and discarded in tanks. Not sure why you wouldn't keep them all together, but I think psychologically that probably says something about him separating all three of them. It tells me that, you know, we look at organized criminals versus unorganized criminals, that, you know, that it might not have been as planned out or structured or ill-structured crime scenes. I don't know if how long he had planned it, but things psychologically, when we look at some of these crimes, we look at their behavior. Why would you separate the family like that?
I think the media interest in part, and the public interest in part, is driven by the fact that, you know, they're a beautiful family, a young family. Shanann's life is so accessible through her Facebook page. You can spend hours scrolling through there and feel like you know who she is, which makes you care, right? When a person is no longer just a statistic or a data point that's gone missing. One theory.
More again. Here we go.
The interview process can make or break a case. We can spend years working on a case and then we get our suspect. And if we don't take the time to actually find out who that person is, you know, develop themes of trying to get them to confess or making it easier for them to tell us what the truth is, the whole case could be lost. I mean, we could have tons of physical evidence, but jurors want to know that this person admitted to it too. there was an immediate sense of urgency to get Chris down to the police department. We had asked if he had already been interviewed, and Detective Baumhover said that he had been interviewed over body cam, which we knew we need him in a room with us that's recorded, video, audio, and we need to get his story down. We needed to know exactly what happened. And as many times as we can get him to reiterate that same story is a benefit to us, because obviously we're looking for nuances, we're looking for discrepancies, we're looking for anything that would give us a clue. Hearing his story, sometimes it makes us go back and reformulate what we're asking him, because maybe sometimes we're not asking him the right question. Chris seemed very calm during his interview. A few times he seemed to get frustrated with Special Agent Coder over certain questions that he was asked, mostly related to what conversation he and Shanann had right before he left for work. It was extremely important for Special Agent Coder to dig into the reason behind their emotional conversation, or what exactly was said. Chris had filled out a written statement about what was said, and it was very interesting because Chris wrote probably a paragraph about packing up for work that day, loading his truck, things like that. Pretty much one line about his emotional conversation with his wife, and then another paragraph of what he did after that, going to work and things like that. So we knew the important stuff is with this emotional conversation that he is neglecting to talk to us about. Obviously our goal was to minimize and allow him to have Chris to have some justification in what he had done. Special Agent Coder had brought up the fact that maybe it was Shanann's fault. It's common in these types of cases that there's some victim blaming. So
wait, did she say that Agent Coder brought that up? I thought, what did she say there? Because didn't she bring that up? I'm just curious. I just caught that, I think, for the first time.
Fault. It's common in these types of cases that there's some victim blaming, so that it's easier for the suspect to say, yeah, it wasn't all just me. Like, I did it because they pushed me to it, or I was forced to do it, or some other reason. So we definitely knew Shanann was the stronger personality of the two. So we wanted to use that to our benefit as far as giving Chris a possible reason as to why this would have happened. The second I had brought that theme up to him, his eyes lit up. And I knew to myself, this is the one he wants. This is the theme he wants to go with. He wants to put the blame on her. Vilifying Shanann in the way I felt like we had to do in that instance was a way that we could move forward. It was a stepping stone for us in the investigation so that we could get one more piece. If we could have him admit to even murdering one of them and then, telling us where they were, we would get answers even from that. We just needed to find Shanann and the girls.
So that gives you some insight right there, into looping all the way back around to their initial interview of him, the interrogation, the polygraphing techniques, and the questioning they use. Even if we could get him to admit to one, then we could be able to take the whole bowl of wax, So I am going to be ending this soon because we're at an hour and 40 minutes. And there's so much more I would like to talk about, but I also do have to work in the morning. And I'll definitely be picking this back up with another live stream on Friday night for sure. Sub Rosa asks, Kelly, are there any claims of misconduct or corruption against Rourke in any other cases? That's a really interesting topic. And I think that our part two, we're going to focus more on Rourke. I want to kind of focus on one investigator or prosecutor with each of these live streams that's looking at the investigation. But Loco Jazz Hands darts ahead and says, Sub Rosa, yes, the man who was given a plea deal and released when they knew where her body was by Rourke. Yeah, and is that the one that you're talking about? That Behind Criminal Minds, is that what the channel is called? Covered. Ellie Cat says, in my opinion, her father is involved and friends with someone higher up, as we know how skanky Nicole is. Was okay. Sorry, I just can't read that out loud, but I think it's funny. Let's see. John McSmith said, Chris did the disposal as a matter of convenience. Oh my goodness. Well, you know, the new book by Chris Watts, Next Door Cellmate, says that, you know, there was a conversation between he and Nicole Kessinger about how to do away, so to speak, with the mess that he created. Yeah. Sub Rosa says that perhaps each Bella and Celeste were taking up those horrible stairs of doom by two different people. Oh my goodness, there's so much to talk about this. Stuart King says, to Sub Rosa, using 2 tanks wouldn't overly disturb the levels in the tanks as much as using 1, in my opinion. And if, you know, your environment and safety person who monitors that kind of stuff is your skanky girlfriend and you're talking about how to take care of this beforehand, I mean, it does all fit together. Yeah, Stuart King also says Anadarko broke the law not having cameras installed on those sites. Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. And I mean, that alone would be reason that they would want, you know, discussion, rhetoric, buzz about this case stopped. Yeah. M. Clark says, check out Behind Criminal Minds. Edward outlines Rourke's primary screw up years before. Yeah, he did a really good episode on that. It's not the one he just recently released, which was about Nicole Kessinger, which wasn't really my favorite. I felt like it's stuff we've all covered. But then again, I cover things other people have covered in different ways. I'm not being critical about that. It just wasn't my favorite. But I think it was like 2 back or so. Yeah. So, all right, guys. Well, I am going to end this because I do have a few more things to do before I have to go to bed this evening. And it's snowing outside. I wonder if my son will have a snow day. I wonder if I'll have a snow day. You never know when you're in upstate New York. But thank you guys so much for being here. I'm definitely going to be doing a live stream Friday night, possibly tomorrow night. I know I took like a few days off between Thanksgiving and now because just had to like attend to other things. But I've got a lot coming up for you guys. And I'm going to put up another poll about cases you're interested in just a few minutes. So if you have a chance to circle back, click on the community page and please weigh in. Your opinion is so important to me, and what you guys want to see is what I want to be talking about. I want to talk about all this stuff. What do you guys want to talk about? That's what we're going to talk about. So thank you so much, moderators. You're amazing. Members, subscribers, people who are just checking us out. Please, please, please just take a moment. Do it now. Click like. It helps out the channel so much. You know that. It's all we ask of anybody, and I just would really appreciate it. Juliet, hey, Juliet, welcome. How are you doing? Says, this is the saddest case ever. Sure is. Mainly because we've seen so much of the girls in the videos. It's just sad. My heart breaks for Bella and Cece, poor babies. I think so many of us share your sentiments there, and thank you for bringing that compassion into the conversation. Anaphylaxis, my gummy's kicking in. Good for you, girl. You get the rest you deserve. The rest you deserve. All right, guys. So again, thank you so much for everything, and I'm just going to be cutting out now, and I will see you guys really soon. Thank you, moderators. You guys are so amazing. Bye.